This is the 34th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the first week of March 2011. This episode is titled CloudForce New York Predictions. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, cloud computing experts. And I'm your host, Jason Atwood. Joining me today, 34th time in a row, is Justin Elsing. Justin, how are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. Entering March Madness.
March Madness starts with a bang. There's a lot of stuff we have to talk about today.
Yeah.
And
we had to pare it down a little bit.
We had to pare it down. We kicked out some stories.
We wrote our agenda in the Google Wave.
Oh, you had to get it in there.
And we pared it down a little bit.
So our agenda covers Google's Gmail glitch, which will be interesting. Microsoft and Google at it again. They have some, they're fighting.
A little infighting. They do that from time to time.
Then we have sort of a hodgepodge of stuff at the end. So we have a blog post by Larry, which goes over CloudForce New York, Apple, and Charlie Sheen. So we could wrap all of that.
You couldn't pick three more disparate topics.
So we definitely talk about CloudForce New York, which is tomorrow. We're going to talk about some predictions for CloudForce New York. And we'll go over, probably have to enter in some of the Apple stuff that was announced today because it's Apple.
I have one prediction. At one point during the show, one of us will say CloudFocus instead of CloudForce, or CloudForce instead of CloudFocus.
In this show or at tomorrow?
During this show right here. This broadcast.
That's a good prediction. So let's kick it off with the Google Gmail glitch. So nothing ever goes wrong in the cloud, right?
Ever.
Never anything goes bad.
Nothing.
Well, apparently that's not true.
Ooh.
Gmail lost, I think it was 150,000 users? Accounts.
It's not like they lost the accounts. They just lost, within the account, you lost your email, your attachments, your Google chat logs, etc. Essentially, it was little less than 0.08% of all Gmail users were affected by the bug.
And this is big because I think it's big for two reasons. Not because they restored it a couple days later, but that it proves that even with the best backups plans and best disaster recovery and best everything in the cloud, which is all the good stuff that we saw, virtualization and the things that we think that make the cloud computing different than the internet, make cloud computing so powerful, it still can go bad. Stuff can still go down. For an example, and we weren't going to talk about it in the podcast, but it reminds me that NA3, Salesforce pod, had some disruption the other week and was down this week, 2 days ago.
Yeah. And
was down for, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. So it happens. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it's a matter of if you were the administrator of email for your company and you were one of the people who lost data or lost their stuff for the amount of time that it took to back it up, how much sleep did you lose waiting for Google to fix it? Or were you the person actually in the server room swapping tapes, bringing it back? I've been in that position. I've been the IT guy, and I've been the guy trying to bring back data. It's not a good situation, so I'd rather have someone else have it be their worry.
Seems like a stressful position to be in.
Very stressful. They actually had, and this, I think the other big story of this is that Google had to go back to what they said tapes. I don't know if they actually meant tapes.
They said tape.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like, let's go to the videotape, but no one uses videotape anymore. It's all digital. So, but apparently it's a funny story because it would have been so many, tapes that it would have stacked up miles high.
A couple miles.
Because tapes are sort of the last resort now.
Right. So essentially they reset people's accounts accidentally while performing a storage software update. So, a bunch of people lost some stuff for a little while, and apparently it's all back now.
I think the more interesting also to bring out is that when you're looking at cloud computing providers, cloud application providers, software as a service providers, make sure that one of the things that they offer you, not only their SLA, and I think we talked about this in one of the first podcasts, right? Why would you choose, or how do you choose? Make sure they provide you not only an SLA about what they would do and how they would notify you, but how you find out and how do you keep track. So one of the things that I had forgotten about actually is that Google publishes their own apps status dashboard, just like trust.salesforce.com. And I'm actually looking at it now, and it shows all of their apps, Google Mail, Calendar, Talk, Docs, Documents, Spreadsheets, presentations, whatever, and it shows the status and what's happening to them on what days, and it goes back and shows that there was disruptions on 3/1, 2/28, and 2/27, so 3 days in a row. I think you should look for that. Make sure that your provider of software as a service is giving you some sort of visibility into where they are in the world of updates, and it should be both scheduled maintenance, so you know about that, and also if the S hits the F, where do you go to find out? Because that's one of the things that you don't want to have to call your IT guy. You should be able to go to some website to do that. So next up on the agenda, another Google story, but with a little bit of Microsoft thrown in.
Yeah, some flair.
We'll throw it all towards Salesforce at the end when we talk about CloudForce. Is Microsoft and Google out again? So tell me what's happening in this story.
So Google last week they launched a product called Cloud Connect, and Cloud Connect is a plugin that users can use to essentially use Google Apps as sort of the back end for a syncing mechanism of Microsoft Office documents.
So like SharePoint.
Like a SharePoint, exactly. Right. So it provides the ability to store the documents up in the cloud, up in Google Apps. Users can simultaneously get access to collaborate on the document. They provide revision history. They sync via the cloud, and they provide unique URLs for sharing of Office files. And there's a little back and forth between Google Apps product managers and Microsoft's marketing or product development department that essentially said, Microsoft saying this is an admission of Google Apps are not good enough, so they're just saying use Microsoft Office and because it's better, and Google's saying, well, we know that a lot of you already use Google Docs, but there's still plenty of you that are tied to desktop applications. We want to make it easier for you to experience the benefit of cloud computing, so use this service to share your documents even though you're tied to Microsoft Word or Excel. Use this service to extend that. And obviously Microsoft says, well, no, it's because your own products are not that good. You're not all about productivity. You're all about getting our documents into your cloud. Like that's, you just want to control where people are putting their data. So it's an interesting little back and forth, and not to mention an interesting product that Google sort of ventured into, allowing you to stay on the desktop but sync via the cloud.
Windows only, I assume. Otherwise, I'd be testing it.
My assumption is yes. I don't have... Obviously, I just saw sort of the article that talked about Microsoft and Google tussling back and forth, and I didn't even think to go try the product, which, why not?
Yeah,
why would I do that?
We, when we worked at that big financial institution that bears no name...
We always mention that thing.
But we don't mention the name of it. For legal purposes, we've been banned. The one thing that was... We were in the early stages of testing out SharePoint. When SharePoint was sort of becoming big, our IT department, which was a massive organization of probably thousands of people, they had a group that was given the go forward to try to evangelize SharePoint. Mm-hmm. So they were providing a lot of free services, like, SharePoint for free, for you, for everybody. And so they would hand out SharePoint sort of, were they sites or SharePoint instances, or the SharePoint...
They were SharePoint sites, SharePoint 2007 sites.
And they showed us the connectivity back and forth to Office. I don't think our Office version would accept it, and I think we played around with it on different machines.
Yeah, it was weird. Always versioning control issues, not version control on a document, but versioning of the software that you're using, because we were on like Office 2000 and this was SharePoint 2007, and that's part of the difficulty, right? You have to keep up with the versions,
which Microsoft wants you to do, because then you're paying to keep up with those versions. So, but I remember that one of the functions of seeing that was really cool, and again, this was 4 or 5 years ago, was that sort of I can use my Word, my Excel, but then when I save it, it's saving directly up to SharePoint. And when I go into SharePoint, I click on it and edit it, not in a web app, which they've gotten miles better. I mean, Google Apps has gone from something that I I wouldn't even use to something that I do use, although at times I go, yeah, I'm out of here, and I go back to a desktop app just for some functionality. So, it's interesting that Google's now sort of saying, not admitting, but saying that there are some times that you want to use the app on your desktop, but still giving the functionality to say, put it in the cloud, and when someone else wants to edit it, they can edit it in the cloud, which I think gives them a better story because you can do both, editing in the cloud and editing on the desktop. So interesting stuff.
With the version history. I mean, there are other products like at one of my other previous employers, we used a Confluence wiki. And the Confluence wiki had a WebDAV plugin that essentially allowed you to edit Microsoft Office documents offline and save it, and it would version it back up into the wiki. It's really neat. So you'd be on a wiki page, and it would have a link to a document that you would have attached, and it would have a little edit link next to it. You'd click edit, it would pop it open in Excel or Word or PowerPoint. You'd edit it, and you'd save it, and it would save back up to the wiki, version it, and even give you a preview if you'd like. It was pretty neat. I mean, these technologies are moving forward.
They are. It's still the thing out of Salesforce that I want the most. Like if you had, and there might be a plugin for it. If there is, tweet us up and tell us. That sort of the content, documents, attachments. We use Conga Composer a lot to get documents out in a certain format, but that sort of seamless native integration between what this thing is online and me being able to edit it offline and then putting it back online without having a lot of quick add document dialog boxes, which stink, it still doesn't exist. And is it technology?
Well,
is it
in some cases some of those things demo well. Like the slide creator thing in Salesforce content demo's awesome. It's so cool. It's open up this thing and there's like 28 slides, and I drag 4 of them out, and I add another one from another presentation, and I save it as a new piece of content. Totally awesome demo. I've used it exactly 0 times.
Yeah, even when we do I agree. And even talking to a lot of our clients, I think PowerPoint, if I'm going to throw a prediction out there, which I should have made for 2011, I think PowerPoint's on the decline. I feel like there's less people. Maybe we were just at that large institution that was just PowerPoint heavy, that everything had to be in a deck. Like you literally couldn't take a vacation. Oh, I want to take a vacation next week. Could you put that in a deck for me, please? And
I don't think
present it next Monday?
PowerPoint's going anywhere.
Well, I think PowerPoint was a way of expressing yourself in a formatted way. A lot of these tools that we use now, a lot of the collaboration tools, kind of let you express yourself in that same formatted way without having to put it into a deck.
I still think people like the takeaway version of the deck. The print out and the bring it home.
Don't kill trees.
The bring it home version.
Bring it home version?
Yep. Taking it home.
Alrighty. Well, that's Microsoft. Good stuff with their Battle Royale. I mean, are they still copying Google's? Are they still copying with the honeypot?
I don't know.
Yeah. So now we have a hodgepodge of stories. Maybe we can call it the whip around. Wait, that someone already does that.
Should we start with the blog post that the partner that shall not be named Larry wrote?
Sure.
All right. I'll kick it off. So he wrote a blog post, which will be published at blog.arkusinc.com, titled CloudForce, Apple Announcements, and Charlie Sheen. And he made mention that he likes the weekly recap. So he wanted to put a weekly recap in the
middle of the week.
In the middle of the week, on a Wednesday, before one of the events even happened.
Sounds good to me. So, we are not here to judge. We are here to just discuss.
And since I'm not sure he listens, we can make fun of him a little.
That is true.
So, the first topic he mentions is CloudForce 2011, which I think we'll save for the end because we're going to talk a little bit about CloudForce. So I'll save that. His other topics are the Apple announcements, and since we're Apple people, we're Apple fanboys.
Fanatics.
We pay close attention when Apple does stuff, and this week they had a busy week. They announced the new MacBook Pro line. Was that this week or last?
Last week.
Last week.
It's okay. I think we
within the 7-day.
I think we recorded it. Yeah.
This is within the 7-day time frame. So the new MacBook Pro line, as well as this morning.
Can't wait to get my hands on one.
Me neither. We already ordered them. And this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the country or the world, Apple announced new iPads, iPad 2, and new iOS 4.3. that will presumably be out at the same time or around the same time for your iPhone and your iPad.
And iPod Touch.
And iPod Touch. Thank
Correct.
you. I always forget the touch. So what were your impressions of the the new MacBook? Okay, faster, bigger, better, faster, lighter.
Yeah, I mean, the only real news to come of
stronger,
that,
more powerful, bigger chips. Great.
I think the only thing to come of that is the new Lightspeed technology, which they've renamed Thunderbolt, which is almost worse than Lightspeed. I don't know. It's a new connection technology that uses the same port that DisplayPort was using, but basically is daisy chain things at a speed that is, I think, 7 or 10 times faster than USB 3. I mean, it's something really, really fast, ridiculously fast, which is great. It doesn't, as I tweeted, I think, whenever they put out the new Drobo with that technology in it, I will buy it because that would be very good for me. But until other things start using it, we'll see. I mean, it sounds great. It sounds like it's fast. It goes over fiber. They're starting with a non-fiber cable, and then they're going to add in a fiber cable when it gets cheaper, and then it will just literally be able to just blazingly fast. So data transfer.
Well,
so good new MacBook Pro.
What I understand is editors, film editors, whom I happen to date one.
My father is one.
And they will be able to edit HD video from an external drive, like in real time. Yeah. So that's pretty
huge.
neat. Yeah.
It's huge. From a consumer standpoint, I don't know.
I don't ever edit HD video.
Not yet. But speaking of Mac,
we do make this podcast, though.
Speaking of editing HD video or editing video or anything, the iPad 2 announced sort of the same thing. They say in their announcement, they wiped the slate and started again.
My favorite thing about Apple.
Yeah,
when they put out a new product, they sort of make the old product look like a piece of garbage.
Yeah, they literally have the great ability to say, this was the greatest thing we ever did, and then we did something that's even greater and makes this thing not so great anymore.
Yeah, like this thing was the greatest thing ever 1 year ago, but now...
not so great.
Look at this shiny new object.
So much greater. So iPad 2, it looks like same screen. Didn't see anything about screen. I read over it in depth. Same screen, 33% thinner, lighter, faster, much faster. New processor. That's got the same processor, I think, as that's in the new iPhone 4s.
I think it's
beefier. The A5.
I think
it's another one.
A4 is in the phone.
Okay. And
A5 is a dual core.
You're right. It's dual core. So it'll be much, much faster, lighter, faster.
HD video on it.
And you can edit HD video.
And you can use GarageBand on it. Maybe we'll experiment one day and record this podcast on one.
Yeah, right now we're recording on a big MacBook Pro with a lot of cores and a lot of memory. That might be interesting. The iPad is just, to say it's a phenomenon, I know more people that own iPads at this point than I do iPhones. The only thing is that families don't own multiple iPads as if families will own multiple iPhones. Like,
sure.
I know families with 2 iPhones, but I don't know families until next week that own 2 iPads.
Well, since the iPhone moved to Verizon, my sister just got a new iPhone on Verizon because she wouldn't leave Verizon.
Right.
She could not leave Verizon, but she wanted the phone now. Now she has both.
So I'm excited. I mean, I'm a fanatic. I'll be there. I'll stand in line.
I will not.
I will. Yes, you will.
No, I will not.
You will join me.
I will not be getting a new iPad.
But we can talk about the new iPad next week because it'll be next week. So
maybe have one.
And no, because it'll come out on Friday. We'll discuss it before it. So we'll maybe go over that.
Gotcha.
But let's talk about the last thing, the Charlie Sheen thing.
He threw Charlie Sheen in there, and I think what he really meant by Charlie Sheen is the explosion of real time and Twitter and social networking. So the ability for someone like Charlie Sheen to go absolutely nuts and join Twitter 2 days ago and have almost 1 million followers in 2 days shows the trend and the power at which social networking it's here, it's arrived, it's happening. And where we were talking about it as he was writing the blog post was where the power is in the fact that the live event still exists on these social networks. So the big events like the Oscars or the World Series or the Super Bowl or anything that you wouldn't DVR or stream, those big live events still really exist on television, but also as a community on Twitter. And you notice, like Sunday night, when you're on Twitter, all the trending topics are just actor names or or Oscars or this award or that award, and there's a lot going on there, and that brings a whole new perspective to watching and consuming content.
And we've talked about this before. What does a cloud TV bring to TV? And we talked about Google TV, and Google TV, I think at this point has been not a flop. Let's not call it a flop. Let's call it not a great success. I've heard buggy things.
It's a little early to say it's anything.
But this is something that I think this is where I could see myself wanting to tie in the cloud or the internet, the clouds, into my TV is on those type of events. So I don't know about you. I'll give you an example. So my pick of the week is not going to be Oscar Backpage. It's called the Oscar Backstage. There's 2 apps that the ABC put out for the Oscars. They have the Oscars for the next 10 years. They put out one with the iPhone that was kind of like you could see stuff and you could predict and stuff. That was only so interesting. They put out another one for the iPad. It's called Backstage, and was really not even for the Oscars. It was for the pre-Oscars, because what it allowed you to do in real time, they had the 7 or 8 different cameras, and you could flip between the different cameras on your iPad while you're watching the Oscars and see different angles of the red carpet, of who's being interviewed. I will tell you, that brought my experience of the Oscars from I mean, I like movies and stuff, but not the biggest event for me, to this is fun. Like, I was enjoying sitting on my iPad, changing the angles, looking for celebrities on different angles. They had the I think I tweeted this. They have the bar cam and then the champagne room cam, so you could go and see who's at the bar. It was great, and I think bring that type of interactivity along with, and if you could tie in on these live events, tie in the Twitter and Facebook into the TV.
Yep.
So like where I'm watching the event, and then somehow, and and part of me thinks this is completely, this would completely make me upset, or it would annoy me. But then part of me thinks it would be cool. I'm watching the Oscars, and all of a sudden I see, Justin says, "Aren't the Justin's watching the Oscars and just tweeted this," and I see that on my TV as I'm watching it.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I think the exact thing should happen for live events and sporting events and things like that, and it should sort of be an overlay that you can turn on or off, like an option. But I was at an event the other night at Madison Square Garden, a tennis match, Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi. It was an exhibition type of thing, and I was there, and I was looking up at the scoreboard thing in the middle, and they had all these messages. And it was like, text your message to 55555 or whatever it is, and it'll show up on the screen. And I was like, why wouldn't you just grab like tweets that had like the hash like Agassi or Sampras and throw them up there, or screen them and say,
oh, like they did Tweet Force 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then I got to thinking like, wow, wouldn't that be cool? Like, I'm at a Jet game or something, and they have this huge screen, and like, they can, grab anybody who's tweeting like at the there or at home, like, they can grab for a replay. They can overlay like people saying things about it. It's like, that can bring the live experience to a whole nother level. People at home, people at the event, communicating. Very interesting stuff.
Social. You could see a social scoreboard.
Yeah,
right.
It'd be pretty neat.
We're Jets fans, and so in the New Meadow, I'm saying that these 4 huge screens. Can you imagine they took one of the screens and they literally, at a point, they put in the social scoreboard, and they put up how many likes, how many check-ins, how many tweets were happening at that time about the game that you were at.
Yeah.
That could be cool. It's again good of him to sort of bring it about Charlie Sheen. We talked about Ashton Kutcher trying to get to 1 million, Oprah, Ashton Kutcher, and Demi Moore trying to get to 1 million Twitter followers back, I think a year and a half ago. How he could do it within 2 days, because it takes the event and it just blows it up.
And he's in the news cycle now, and 4 or 5 months from now he might not be.
Right. And he's using it. I mean, he didn't just going from the thing about Charlie Sheen is he didn't just go from being on 2020 to being on Twitter, and he was just already on Twitter doing stuff. He's now using it as a way of extending the conversation of what he was doing on 2020. And using that as a way for people to keep following, and keep going in.
And
that
I'll say one of the most interesting and innovative ways that I've seen Twitter used recently was by Howard Stern, who just joined Twitter very recently. And it's interesting when someone like Howard joins. He thinks like it didn't exist till he got there.
Right.
He's like reinventing everything.
I just found this thing called Twitter, and it's me on Twitter.
But what was cool was he was doing sort of what I was talking about. His movie was on, Private Parts was on TV, like it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
It's the only thing I like about Howard Stern is this movie.
And he was live commentating during his movie. So you're watching the movie and you're following Howard talking about the movie.
It's the director's tweet.
It was great. It was the coolest, most interactive way to like watch a movie that I've seen, and I was like, that is very interesting, and that is a cool way to use this technology to get out there and do different things other than like, but like if that could be tied into the TV, like that would be cool, right? Like here's this thing and Howard's tweeting about it and other people are tweeting back to him and overlay that for me, and that's like a running dialogue now about this event that's on television.
And definitely they're definitely doing this, this TV stations and news stations are doing it, but they're doing it selectively. They're not making it kind of interactive. So they're saying, oh, here's live tweets that they're having about this event now, or they took questions from Twitter. That stuff is, I agree, I want it more personal to me. I don't want the news station picking what should be showing. I don't want to be watching the news, but I want to be watching something and then have it kind of pull in my friends, my feed, my Facebook. So very cool stuff. Again, has a lot to go and a lot to do about social. But speaking about social, I'm doing good, Sagui.
That is a good one.
Let's move over to the new social thing tomorrow, which is CloudForce New York 2011. Booyah.
Yep.
That could have been the title.
So what to expect?
What to expect? What do you expect?
I expect the message to be very similar to Dreamforce.
Word for word.
I expect it to be a very similar keynote. I expect them to push social. I expect them to push collaborative, open. These are the keywords that I've been hearing.
You've been hearing from your sources?
From my sources inside. I expect them to really be pushing hard on Cloud 2, next version. Again, social, open, collaborative. These are the words I think we're going to hear.
What do you want to see? So that's what you expect. Basically, that's what we know. What do you want to see?
It's hard to say.
With all these acquisitions that have been having, do you want to see any of them pop up? A Dim?
I wouldn't mind seeing some of the service stuff that they've acquired start to pop up, like the live chat acquisition that they've made. I wouldn't mind seeing some real world examples of VMforce and Heroku. Like here's some real things that were built, whether they're being used, beta type stuff of real applications running on these other services that we've yet to really see.
Database.com showing up.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see, if it's like a database.com and a Ruby app sort of, tying the two together and with Chatter, like show me something that I haven't seen before, but I'm not really sure that we're going to see something that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I don't think they generally don't use these events to do new live stuff because they have that event once a year. Although, I think if they're smart, it's another event. It's another way to get them.
It's a big event. I mean, they're going to have 3,000 some odd people there in the Jacob Javits Center as opposed to like the Sheraton or the Pierre Hotel. Like this is a real expo floor, a real conference, and I know there's going to be lots and lots of vendors there on the floor.
We'll be there.
The Dreamforce app is back up and live with a CloudForce version.
We're there.
It's definitely a bigger event than it has been over the last couple of years, which is a good thing for us.
It seems to be growing. Yeah, I mean, I would like it if they turn this into not just a sort of a rehash of Dreamforce, because whatever, we're out in Dreamforce, but I'd like to throw in something new. Just throw in something that you didn't talk about before, or maybe focus on something, because Dreamforce is a lot of stuff. I mean, it's multiple days. They're bringing, I know they're doing the charity thing, the thing, there's I think a Build a Toys section.
Ooh.
For me, I expect it to be very much the same. I want to see more of what's coming in the pipeline. I want to see how they've taken all these. I think there's been 4 or 5 acquisitions since Dreamforce, and I want to see how they're wrapping up into. I mean, Heroku was the one they kind of announced right before, but even DimDim, give us a preview of what you're thinking about doing with DimDim. To me, as someone who does web conferencing and sharing and screening almost every day, if not twice a day or 3 times a day, and always having to go over to WebEx to add in my meeting and use GoToMeeting. We have that battle going back and forth, which I think WebEx wins by having the iPad version, or the iPhone version. But I would love to see how they're going to integrate that type of thing, because that to me takes. I think salespeople are using it all the time. I don't want it to be turned into one of these things that they add and then I never hear people using, like Cloud Scheduler, to be a perfect example of something that I thought was very cool. I've tried to use it. I even got an email back from someone today where I tried to send a Cloud Scheduler, and they just responded with basically incoherent words. But the sentence was, I will not read it aloud, but it was basically they couldn't get the concept, so it didn't work.
The problem with Cloud Scheduler is that it assumes too much of the receiver of the email. It assumes that they'll read it and understand that what they're doing is then selecting some the thing about a calendar invite in an email, which is what people expect, is they know it, they've been doing it for years, and they expect it at work. That other Cloud Scheduler thing is not something you expect at work. It's just not something that you really see. So you actually have to read the email to see what it says that you should do. And I always feel like using a Cloud Scheduler, I have to send an email first to the person to say, hey, I'm about to send you this thing, and here's what you have to do. Because the instructions in the email, and it looks just like a regular meeting invite, so it doesn't do much for them. Another example is the content slide picker thing, right, that allows you to move content around and create the perfect pitch. Well, I've never used it, and I don't even train people on how to use it because it's not worth the time to even show people how to use, in my opinion.
It's a phenomenon that I'm sure some of our listeners are finding, is that while we are sitting, what we feel like is in this well-established world of Salesforce and cloud computing, and think that we're looking for the next thing and the integration piece, the most people out there, the masses, are still just getting up on CRM and just getting up on file sharing and just getting up to having one place to put all my contacts, and can I sync that with Outlook and stuff that we kind of take for total granted. I when I'm training people now, or when I'm doing configuration, I'm noticing more and more how they are still focused not on the extras, but on the sort of the core. We were talking to a client the other day, or a prospect the other day, about the core concepts, and didn't want to deviate into anything about chatter or content or any of these other sort of stuff. They wanted to just say, can I add these 3 fields to a contact? Yes, you can. So I don't know, it's exciting. I like it. We'll be there all day. If you want to tweet at us and then try to meet up at some point, we'd love to hear from you. We won't be doing a live podcast there. We'll do it tonight. I don't really have any predictions. I think we'll get a chatter-free update. 50 million. Make your bet. Here it is. Make your prediction on how many people have signed up for chatter-free.
How many people have signed up for chatter-free, or how many different organizations are using Chatter right now?
Well, do both. If you think that they're going to not give you one and give you the other.
I think they'll only give you one number, and it'll be overall
total Chatter users.
Total Chatter customers.
Total Chatter customers, that people have turned on Chatter.
Total Chatter customers, which is individual domains that have a Chatter instance, whether it be chatter-free or their Salesforce.com with Chatter enabled.
Okay.
85,000.
So that's not even their full customer base.
Right.
Okay. I think they're going to go the other way. I think they're going to actually say a chatter-free, and they'll say after the Super Bowl ad, which they are definitely going to replay.
Definitely going to show, because you got to get some mileage out of that.
You got to get more mileage out of that.
Maybe Will.i.am will be there.
Maybe he will. Maybe he'll want to do music in the clouds. I think they got to push a number that makes sense. So it's got to be a 500,000, a million.
There's no way, though. That's not a realistic number.
1 million people signed up for Chatter Free?
Not even close.
No. So 250,000 people have signed up for Chatter Free.
I'll take the under.
Okay, you take the under. All right, well, I'm going to take your under pick of the week.
All right. That didn't make much sense.
So it was my way of trying to segue us into something else.
Good try. All right.
So I'll take your pick of the week.
So this week, I was a little lazy, and I took a pick directly from the App Exchange newsletter.
Wow. That
I think
doesn't sound...
I think we both did.
No. This was tweeted to me, so go ahead.
Well, I think what you picked is also in the App Exchange newsletter, so it's a coincidence. But I picked something that I actually have an idea out on the Idea Exchange for, and it looks as if someone solved it with a product.
Great.
The product is called Manage Multiple Leads from a Company. The name of the product is exactly what it does. And then in parentheses it says, just like accounts with multiple contacts. So one of my things about leads in Salesforce is that they're individual people. And if you have 4 or 5 different people at one account or one company, they're 4 or 5 different leads, but there's no like connection between them.
You must have been listening to the call I was on with the client today.
You know, I is this something that they were sort of interested in?
No,
maybe this product could solve their issue.
No, it was something that they were struggling with. Again, we talk about the cloud and all these new features and new things. People still struggle with basic.
What is
idea.
a lead versus an account and a contact? It is a hard thing.
I wish I could record what I say. It's very good, but they struggle with it.
So this product sort of helps to fix that, because like my issue is, well, I know Jason at Arkus, and Larry's at Arkus too, but when I log an activity to Jason, and then I convert Larry, I don't know to convert Larry because I've converted Jason. I don't know who else is in that company.
Right.
Well, this helps to pull them all together.
Great.
It creates sort of a screen that pulls all the leads from one account from one company. Pardon me. Using the company field, if they're spelled the same way, etc.
Okay.
Onto one screen, and all the activity history. And if that company already exists as an account and there are other contacts, it will bring that onto the screen as well.
So it's basically
if you're working with a large enterprise,
it's a Visualforce search page.
Kinda, but it brings everything together, and it looks as if, I haven't actually used it because I just saw it yesterday, but I want to try it. It looks as if you can convert multiples at one time. So it has like a related list with checkboxes, and then there's a convert button, which is one of my other things that I included in my idea, which was, well, if you have 5 people at one company and you're converting one lead at the company, I mean, a lot of the time you're converting that to an account, and I want to convert the account, and I want all of them to go.
Right.
I don't want to have to go convert 5 separate records. I want them all to go. So it seems as if this could solve it. Very interesting product from a company called Versatile Capitalist Inc. Just hit the App Exchange last week. Pricing, there's a 15-day free trial, so I will be trying this. I probably should have tried it before so I could give it a true good review, but I will try it, and I will tweet about it when I do try it. $10 a user per month with an annual subscription. It seems a little pricey to me.
Seems a little pricey.
That includes, though, the setup, premium support, and all future upgrades, so they future-proof you there. And they have discounts for nonprofit and NGOs. I imagine you can, well, I don't want to talk for them, but $10 a user per month sounds a lot. But maybe you can talk to them on your own.
Come talk to Justin.
Come talk to me,
who talk to them.
Who talked their price down to $1. They'll love me for picking them.
It's something that I think when we look at the pricing of Salesforce and then you start to add on other features, I have a client right now, or we have a client who I'm basically trying to talk them into 3 new App Exchange products, and they all have costs, actually 4 new to do one thing that they want to do, which is pretty complex and cool, and we were talking about it the other day, but 4 new products to do that.
Well, it's a big process, and you cobble the things together to make it happen.
It's Salesforce plus 4 App Exchange products, all which have pricing associated to them. And to be honest, when I start to add it up, I'm like, ooh, that gets pricey. Now, of course, it's a very customized thing, and hopefully it automates enough of their process that they see the value in it. But it's interesting when you start to add them up: $1, $2, $3, $10 a month. This times the transaction, it adds up. I'm going to pick 2 things. Yeah, because I can. Justin's mouth was full.
You can't do that.
I can do that. I'm going to pick one because someone sent it over, and as a follower and someone who likes the podcast, a minion of the podcast. I don't think that's the way of keeping our podcast.
Ooh, yeah. Bad. Sorry.
So Peter Five sent this over. It is called Phone to Lead. It is by
Phone to Lead, interesting.
By Keystone Computer Telephony Integration. Full disclosure, have not tried it. I've looked at it. I think it's an interesting concept. Basically, you register 1-800 numbers, right? And then when they call in, the system understands where they're coming from and then reads the campaign name from Salesforce to the person who's answering the phone, so they know what campaign they came from. So you're a big publisher. You put out lots of different ads, and you put 1-800 numbers on all the different ads. You want to relate them to a campaign within Salesforce. You want to know which campaign they're calling from. This one relates to that. So it calls in, it then checks against Salesforce for the campaign number, for campaign name, then reads it to the agent before they pick it up. So,
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
So it reads them your campaign out of Salesforce to the agent, so they know who they're calling in from, so they don't have to ask where to hear about us. So it gives that direct one-to-one.
Doesn't actually create the lead, though?
No. Well, because then that would be a voice thing. They want to get you to a person who can take down your information. That would be voice whatever. Interesting. If I've gotten it wrong, Peter, please let me know. It is called Phone to Lead. There's pricing, but again, it's a pay-as-you-go bulk minutes. It's based by the minute by which it calls in at 500, 1,800, 6,000. Offer restricted in the state that you live in. So that's one. The second one, that's our pick of the week for our valued listeners. The second one is a product called Calendar Anything.
Why didn't you just save that for next week?
Because I got money. I literally have a backlog. I got to get through them. We should have a pick show.
We could do a pick show.
All picks.
Pick shows are fun.
Calendar Anything. I'm evaluating this product, so I'm not going to say that I've deployed it yet, but evaluating it. It basically will build a nice graphic calendar within Salesforce off of anything. So it does what it says it'll do. You can pick any object, create a sort of a filter, so create kind of a view, give it a color, and then it will show up on a calendar. You put it under a tab, and then the tab. So, kind of like a Google Calendar. But it can do it for multiple objects, and you can have multiple calendars. So for those of you who do, obviously opportunities, pretty interesting, close date, you could build one. But you could build a
marketing calendar.
A marketing calendar that would show campaigns, but on the same calendar you could show leads that are last contacted. Again, you have multiple calendars down the side you can pick, and then you can pick which ones you want to see at any one time. So you can overlay one with another. So you could do interesting stuff. I was playing around with it for opportunities and close date and a custom date on the opportunity. But you can really think about if you were running projects out of Salesforce, which we do, or if you're running, if you're doing stuff on accounts with start and end dates or contract start and end dates, you could do a lot of calendaring on when these things and what they look like.
What's the pricing on this thing?
The pricing on this thing is...
Is it user-based, so anyone who needs to see the page?
See the custom page is $5 per user per month. So yeah, a little bit on the higher side but again, I think it's hard because how do you get?
It'd be good for like a marketing person, so
Yep.
You can buy it for like specific users.
You can buy it for specific users. Yeah. So some App Exchange partners actually say you can only buy, you have to buy 5, you have to buy 10. One of our favorites.
Can you buy one?
I think you can buy one. It's on the App Exchange. It'll be in the notes. Interesting. It has a whole thing for building, and again, you can build complex logic. So it can be a close one opportunity that is this record type that shows up, and then you can show on the hover. It can show you all sorts of custom information about the thing, and again in different colors. So you might want to give it a try if you're looking for that thing. Say, how can I build a calendar of some objects and build it into a calendar view? You can do week, day, and month. That's it. So that's my pick of the week. You want to follow us and the rest of our stuff? Read Larry's blog when it goes up. blog.arkusinc.com. You can subscribe by RSS, really simple syndication. The company's at twitter.com/ArkusInc. Justin here is at twitter.com/JustEdelstein. I'm at twitter.com/JasonMAtwood. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/ArkusInc. And, of course, the podcast's on iTunes. Subscribe and leave a nice review like Brandy did the other day. Thank you very much.
At force.mom.
At force.mom. Follow her because she left a nice review of the podcast on iTunes. You can subscribe there. Really appreciate it. And we'll come back next week. We'll be talking about what we saw and experienced at the great CloudForce. Probably talk about the iPad and what we're excited about if I can convince Justin to stand in line with me. And until then, until we see the Chatter commercial for the 17th time.
If you buy me food afterwards, I will stand online with you.
Are you going to buy one too?
No, you're going to buy me food.
But are you going to buy an iPad while you're there?
No, but I'll stand in line.
Okay. We'll talk about that next week. Until next week, enjoy those cloudy days.